What's up, investors? Chase here from the Note MBA podcast. On this week's episode, we talk all about deal closings happening in Florida. We've got a note deal, we've got a wholesale deal, we've got a lot deal. We've got David finally moving his flip deal. I'm very, very excited about that one. We talk all about an interesting Facebook strategy that David is working. We talk about what we're going to be doing moving towards 2018, what our plans are, what our trips are, what our deal flow is looking like. We talk a little bit about the launch of our new note investing course, Note Investing Academy. And we talk about a strategy for handling the payment of delinquent taxes and the proof thereof that is required. It's an interesting little hack system strategy that Robbie's been working on and figuring out to get a really great opportunity on taking care of these proof of tax payments without having to make the trip out or adding additional steps or taking additional time. It is a jam-packed episode, and it starts right now.
It was two separate counties the last time I mailed it. They were in the same envelope because I'd been at Wells Fargo to get the cashier's check. Wells Fargo does not sponsor this podcast, nor do I get a kickback from Wells Fargo for that statement.
Oh man, if only. That's the big dollar endorsers right there, baby.
rolling out the stagecoach, right?
Voice sponsor.
So I sent this off to
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out notemba.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Note MBA podcast, your home for note investing on iTunes. I am Chase Thompson, joined this week once again by Mr. David Glinsky and Robert Woods. Florida boys, what's going on, fellas?
good week last week. We had two closings last week, and we have another closing this week. So it's been productive.
And these are what type of closings? We've discussed moving so many different directions in our business, just doing deals. These are note closings. These are flip closings.
We had a flip closing. We had a note deal that we foreclosed on that we wholetailed.
Wholetailing, yes, sir.
Wholetailing. This is the wholetailing deal. That show got a lot of run. I think a lot of people hadn't heard of that phrase before.
And then we closed this week on a lot for development deal.
Is this a lot out in Florida, or are we doing something somewhere
Florida.
else?
Florida stuff this week.
Florida stuff this week. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Coming in post hurricane season, you guys are doing deals, closing up deals. On the topic on the topic of closing deals and what have you, David, your flip.
Yep. I did indeed. The flip that I have so long been waiting for to sell. It finally closed last week, and that was a great feeling when I saw the funds in my bank account. A little happy dance there.
So are you able to go over any of the numbers? Can you talk a little bit about acquisition and repairs and anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I picked it up as a HUD home. Because this is when I was doing the house hacking. I was living in the home while I was flipping it. So bought it for, I believe, $180. These are just rough numbers. I put in about 20 to 25, so all in for about 205. And I ended up closing at 283. So after all was said and done, probably like 69 I ended up making.
Wow. And so putting in the 25, that was all like labor you either had to outsource and then materials you had to outsource. None of that was your own time, obviously?
No, I mean, it was so low because it was all my own time.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So that was just general.
I think easily if I would have hired out, which I would do next time around, because doing all the work yourself is a pain in the butt, it probably would have added, 10 to 15 grand more, which still would have been a home run, but
easily. right?
Yeah.
I mean, easily would have added that, right? And then obviously easily still would have been a home run, right?
The biggest reason like it became such a big home run is because the market really took off in the area I was in while I had it holding. Otherwise, I would have just projected the regular like 30, 35 that I try to make on a flip.
And not to make you sound out to not be a genius, but did you specifically buy it in that area because you saw this coming at all, or was this just generally speaking something that happened and it was just kind of fortuitous?
Well, the area was pretty hot. It's always been a hot area, but I didn't expect it to go so hot so quick, so I can't really complain there. Sometimes a little bit of luck helps. So
we've had some great appreciation in Florida, though.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Has that affected any of your? Well, you just mentioned closing on some of the note deals. I mean, that's positively affected some of the note stuff that you bought in the 2015, 2014, 2016 area too, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helped everything. But at the same time you say that, it's also helped the guys that are selling justify trying to raise the pricing. So
Well, yeah,
with one comes the other. So I think that's got a little bit to do with why we're looking at so many different options right now with capital, and not just diving everything 100% in with notes.
I see. Yes, I totally agree. That's why I was wondering with your closes, what kind of the precipitated the sales and the purchases thereof, right? So fantastic week real estate wise. And then something that we've kind of always has been at the fore of the show. I wanted to swing us over to Facebook, talk about two different topics that are completely different yet obviously interconnected. David, you have been posting some graphics, some have just been like the verbiage with backgrounds or whatever. Some really interesting kind of thought-provoking stuff on your Facebook page. This is just your personal page, and I wanted to review a couple of those topics. One for the show, and then two just to get an idea of why. What are you building something up here? What's going on, man?
So I'm really excited that you asked me that, because up until now I've been waiting to see if anybody notices or asks why I'm doing it. You've been the first.
Look at that.
The reason I'm doing it is because I follow a couple real estate groups because I'm a realtor in Florida, and I follow them on Facebook. And on one of the groups, there's a kind of popular guy inside of the group. His name is Abraham Walker. He's a Virginia real estate agent, and he posts thought-provoking questions like this on Facebook also. And he always gets tons of engagement. So I kind of wanted to see like how my Facebook kind of reacts to my ideas and my thoughts. So I started like logging just random thoughts in my notes app. And then I've just slowly been putting them out on Facebook and kind of maybe putting a call to action at the end with like a question or something. And honestly, it's been great. I kind of started off with some vague stuff, and now I'm kind of using it to test the market with asking them questions about how they feel about certain businesses or ideas or thoughts. So it's been pretty exciting to see how people respond to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think looking at some of the engagement numbers, it's interesting to see that some of this stuff. So you posted one, and I believe this was either yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. 10 in the morning. You asked a question regarding lifestyle design. What does that mean to you, right? And the engagement wasn't awesome. Like you had some people comment, you had a couple likes or whatever, but then you go down to talking about how common sense isn't common, and you get a ton of people commenting and a ton of people. It's not even a question, right? Like you're just making a statement, right, that everybody's heard, and you get a ton of people that throw their hat in the ring. So it seems that you've got a really interesting, like lifestyle design is obviously a phrase all three of us know extremely well. Anybody who's read a book by Tim Ferriss or the Vagabond Brothers, any of these people, it's a phrase that we all know. So potentially that might be a question where changing the phrasing or something might yield something else. But I wanted to talk about, you posted on the 29th about I'm starting to plan my goals, trips, and ideas for 2018. How far have you started planning in the next year? Have you started planning in the next year? That kind of idea. And we're constantly, obviously, talking about goals and ideas and planning and putting stuff down on paper and this, that, or the other. And I actually heard, oh man, I'm going to try to find the link, and I'll link it up in the show notes if I can find it. It was either a podcast or it was a video. I think it was Simon Sinek, the guy who wrote Start With Why, where he was talking about how we're visual creatures, and that's what makes writing down your goals so important. But you got some really great ideas in here. I love that you included trips, though. Goals, trips, ideas, like all of that all-encompassing idea, which obviously comes back to the lifestyle design aspects and stuff. But what are some of the things that you guys currently have? How far have y'all started to plan for 2018?
I'm just kind of trying to get like a broad idea of what I want to get and what I want to accomplish in 2018. There are no real, at this point, from my planning this far out, I don't have any like, besides maybe one or two things that are like certain things that I want to do. Right now, it's all just ideas and trying to form them into a list so I can break them down and kind of decide easier.
Right. So is there anything you care to share? Anything on like, I mean, you went to what, Europe, for a trip last year with your family / sister. I mean, you've done some decent traveling. Is there something you're wanting to do on a more extended basis now that's a little on your own terms, or what's going on? What do you got?
Definitely want to get out to Southeast Asia at some point next year.
Okay. Have you been there before?
I've only been to Asia before. I've only ever been to Japan on that side of the world. So no, haven't been to Southeast Asia.
Okay, well, delightful. What about business-wise? Obviously, you're wanting to do and get into doing more real estate deals or better or more expensive. What direction do you see kind of your business going? Are you going to start obviously focusing more on the note stuff? You've got a lot of opportunities out there in Florida to go drive stuff. What are you looking at business-wise?
Yeah, I mean, now that I've got some more capital from selling the flip, definitely got to put it back out. So preferably, I'm still looking for all types of deals, flips and rentals, but I'd like to focus on the note stuff and take some more flights out to places and, walk boots on the ground and walk the properties.
You can meet me out in Dayton here in 2 weeks if you've got nothing else going on. If you just want to fly into Columbus or what have you, Ohio, and drive an hour or so with me to Dayton, you're free to do so if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of that kind of stuff. Want to get to some more conferences. I'm gonna try and make it to the Note Expo in November.
Awesome.
So
I'll be there as well.
Next year would be a good goal. Yeah, it's kind of stuff like that. Mr. Woods, have you thought of any goals for next year so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've spun through some stuff. My predominant focus right now is finishing up 2017 with what the items have been that we've still got outstanding. So I think that's the biggest where my energy's at right now. I think next year will probably be geared up for a larger trip, even though I try to act like I didn't have a large trip this year. So
is that like a motivating factor? Because we were talking on the phone the other day about, you're like, man, I haven't had an extended trip. You're like, well, I mean, I kind of had it. I said, so is that like a way to kind of keep yourself still like engaged in the process of like wanting to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I've been thinking about buying another house to just do another project for myself, like somewhere up in Chicago or DC. I'm thinking I want another personal project as opposed to a business project. So
kind of like you had, I mean, I don't know if this is how this worked out. Like you had, like that condo out in Vegas, like having another spot within the country where you have something going on, or like I know that you're really hot on Chicago, and we haven't had a ton of discussion on DC. Are you currently hot there as well?
I like DC. It's got some motivating factors to, are nice about the city. So
if you're out for a run, there's a couple of decent monuments that you can take a look at for sure. So you want to maybe do something a little bit more for you, not so much business wise, which is kind of interesting. On that flip that you had, David, regarding kind of doing something for yourself or what have you, you mentioned like you'd obviously farm it out next time, right? Like pay out, it'd be an extra 15, 10, 20, whatever the case is. But I'm fascinated in the education you were able to get. Now, obviously, you had mentioned your dad had done this for a long time, so you wouldn't be necessarily in the same boat. But if I was wanting to do a similar thing, I would absolutely have to be swinging the hammer. I wouldn't absolutely have to, but it would be interesting to put myself in a similar situation that you were in, because now when you're going to either check on a property, do more of these, you can manage more, all the things that you're looking for, right? And that to me is, if I could like give you 10 grand and then just download, right, like all Matrix style with the eyes flickering, right, like just give me the knowledge or whatever. But you obviously were able to see a lot of stuff, and moving forward, I mean, you're a young cat, right? Like moving forward, you're going to be able to recognize a lot of this stuff, and I know that you typically have that background, but still, it's going to be extremely helpful for you moving forward. And so that's a really interesting aspect, of being able to kind of do that. Even if you're doing it from afar, you'll recognize stuff in pictures or videos that maybe if you've got a reno happening up in another state or something on a note, you'd be like, wait, back that up, or look at this photo or whatever, like what's happening here or there, where some of us might miss that. So I think that's awesome. I think that's a killer piece of education you were able to get while technically being paid. So that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it's like that advice when people tell you like, oh, I want to get into the restaurant business, and they ask you what the first thing that they should do is, and they should just go work a job in the industry for a couple of years just to figure everything out. So it's that sort of same idea.
/ don't open a restaurant. I know. That's like that is, I have no desire to do that.
Yeah.
What's that? Some people like that idea?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I feel like that's, having worked in the business, I think it's really just more of a deterrent, right? Like you'll work a couple and you're like, oh, this is the pits. I don't want to. Anyway, that was my experience. I'm sure everybody had a wonderful experience working in the restaurant industry. That's just.
I mean, I liked it.
You were a fan. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because I pissed off one of my managers when I was in college because I was a good server. I thought I did very well at that job, and it was funny. We got in a conversation, and I told my manager one day about I couldn't wait till I got a real job. And he's like, this isn't a real job? He's like, wait until you don't have it. He's like, is that real money? And I was just like, oh. It was a good point. But yeah, I don't know. I liked serving. It's pretty easy. You get paid an outrageous amount of money relative to the effort of literally just transporting food from a kitchen to a table.
It's aside from the one thing it taught me was extreme time and effort management, right? Because you'll have that hour before things pop, depending on the restaurant, I guess you're at, right? But you have the hour before things pop, and then it's bananas. I worked at a Mexican food restaurant working in San Antonio. That's definitely something people are prone to do. And it'd be bananas for 3.5 hours. And you're just slinging plates, you're doing this, you got to be at your tables, you got to be service, you got to smile, you got to, the customer service aspect, all this kind of business, right? And then it dies down again. And it's, like you said, disproportionate to the effort, except it's bonkers for 3 hours a day, every day you worked. It was one of the most high stress, and it's such a low stress. It's I'm freaking out about someone not having tortillas at their table, and they're I mean, most people are okay, but some people are jerks, but I'm freaking out about it. I'm there's no tortillas at this table. There's a billion things more important than the lack of tortillas over at this table, but I'm losing my ass over it because, service and everything.
But in that moment, those tortillas to that table are mighty important. Oh boy, howdy. I'll sit there and stare at somebody and not eat my food if I don't have ranch dressing.
Well, you also have experience in the industry. You know what it is. Just go back there, freaking pour it in a bowl. I love it. So 2018, gearing up, very excited about all the stuff coming down the pipe for that. And it was interesting to me to kind of read some of the people's responses on what they were planning, how they were, kind of reacting to the new year kind of coming through. You had a couple people jump in. Some people said they had a 6-month planning on the horizon. Then they were just asking questions of what trips you had. Work first, then trips. You need money for the trips. So to me, there was an interesting opportunity there for you. We talk about how you are able to elicit, what you do in business to get people to, obviously this show's about real estate investing. If they are working, say they're an engineer or something, they're working a job they enjoy doing and all this kind of stuff, right? And you have an opportunity within the comments there to, you got specifically someone said work first, you need money for trips. And your comment was appreciate the advice, but I do work hard, so I also travel hard. Love that. But at the same time, you have an opportunity to either revisit this thread or take this whole topic and throw it into, say, the lifestyle video that we did with Robbie on the day in the life stuff, or when Robbie was, we've got a couple of great videos, and I'll link them up on the in the show notes, where you were out in Costa Rica, and you're by a pool and he's talking about, you know, the business and talking about the mindset stuff, but you have a really interesting opportunity there. That's everybody's mindset. Work first, then the trips. You need money for the trips. And then they never take the trips. It's never enough. The trip's never big enough, that, you know, the money's never enough and all that kind of stuff. So you have a really interesting opportunity there from like an educational perspective, as well as potentially, I would imagine, I don't know what everybody here does for a living, but like flipping some potential, you know, investors or bringing them on board to understanding kind of how we do what we do kind of thing. And that's why I loved what you were trying to do here. I loved the really forward, you know, moving the ball forward on pushing your agenda of what you think can happen in someone's life and business, right? Like, this is what I do. Here's how I'm able to accomplish it. I'm a real estate investor. I do travel. I go across, you know, this whole thing that we talk about on the show is kind of playing out in the comment section of what you're doing over here on Facebook. And I just thought that's incredible. Then you have someone commenting like right in the moment, like they only plan moment to moment. That's a whole other topic you can expound upon, right? Like talk about goals and writing stuff down and what you've been able to accomplish and how young you are and how you're working, but you're also living. And, you know, there's a lot of fodder in this comment section of one post. And I just thought that was incredible. Like, good effort, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's just great to start to see that I can capture people's attention and hold it long enough to actually explain something or create like an idea in their head. So I think that's just, yeah, it's been fun so far, to say the least.
You gotta go execute against it. I love it. And then Mr. Woods, one of the ideas that we were wanting to kind of cover and talk about on the show today was a little bit of a systems play. You shared, you know, kind of staying with the Facebook theme that we're currently with, you shared out on the Note MBA Facebook page an image of some self-addressed stamped envelopes that you had sent out. You had talked about it on the show, I believe. I want to say that happened. Again, we have so many conversations, but I'm almost positive it happened, about how you were kind of bringing that system into the business to make sure these items came back to you in a timely fashion, all this kind of stuff. You had a ton of engagement on this post. A ton of people jumped in and said, you know, how many empty envelopes returned, what have you. So can you explain again kind of the strategy you went after there and how you guys have, like, you know, one-upped even on that?
Well, it came from needing to get proof of payment over to FCI so that I could add as a corporate advanced expense some taxes that I had paid on a property. And it was just like banging my head against the wall trying to get a copy of proof of payment. Because I was like, I have like the payment slip, the taxes are showing paid on the county. What else do you need? So I had to go back and forth with the county to get a copy of a proof of payment that showed showed my company as the remitter. So I was like, okay, you know, what's the way around this? So I was thinking about it when I went to send these tax payments off, because it was taking care of delinquent taxes. I figured, why not just put an envelope in there? How much work is there if I've already addressed it? I got a stamp on it, and all I'm asking them to do is print a receipt and put it in there, which if I was there in person, they would do anyway. And it was 2 separate counties the last time I mailed it. They were in the same envelope because I'd been at Wells Fargo to get the cashier's check. Wells Fargo does not sponsor this podcast, nor do I get a kickback from Wells Fargo for that statement.
Oh man, if only. That's the big dollar endorsers right there, baby.
rolling out the stagecoach, right?
Voice sponsor.
So I sent this off to Will County in Illinois and Jefferson County in Kentucky. And thank you very much to those counties' tax collectors and whomever it is that processed my payment. But each individual county sent it back. So just the other day, we did a form letter with a letterhead on it, a little logo, and pre-printed, and they just got a blank spot for the address now, and some pre-printed self-label or some pre-printed, envelopes. It'll be the self-addressed stamped envelopes we'll send out. But now they're kind of printed in a form, so it's just part of the system. Anytime delinquent taxes get paid, to put that in there with the payment and send it off. That way they just give it back to us. It makes it that much quicker. As soon as it comes back, scan it into the system. I send that up to FCI to their lender requests. They tack it onto the account, and it just gets done right automatically, as opposed to having to go back and look for it and figure out what you were doing with the receipt.
I freaking love it. So these ones that you sent out originally, you said they were handwritten, they were just, done up. do you anticipate the response rate being better now that they look a little bit more legit? Not that they weren't always legit before, but I mean, they look, like you said, they're form lettered up. They got the header. So like this person receiving them is going to go, oh, I got to get this done kind of thing.
So I think it'll be the same, because I really think almost anyone that had read the letter and got my payment in almost any county is going to be like, okay, I can facilitate putting a receipt in there. So for the most part, I think that they should almost all come back. But I think what it does is it's two things. One, it's form done on our side. So because I hand wrote the address, and then I hand wrote, the letter that said, please send these back. Now it's just one I can print out. It takes me 13 seconds to type an address into it. It's just saving time and streamlining the process. And to a degree, it may have an impact that it looks professional. It's printed in color so that it looks like maybe a company would be upset if they didn't get their receipt, and a company might call and complain more than just like Joe, the investor,
random real estate investor. That's what I'm thinking. That's why I was wondering if that had been the reason why you decided to make the change. But for you, it was more the obvious, like, I don't want to have to self-address, and I don't have to handwrite. I don't have to do all this stuff. Now it's much more just boom,
I think
boom.
it's the difference between if you go back to like the wholesaling equivalent, somebody gets a handwritten letter, mailed to their house in a standard envelope with the crooked stamp and the handwritten address, or it's like a customized, really nice color brochure that's basically trying to say the same thing. We'll buy your house. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is going to be a better shop to go to?
Right. And golly, my mind is totally blanking. There was a really great, I think it's literally the same topic with Simon Sinek talking literally about what you're saying, but essentially how important the delivery mechanism of the message is, right? Like if you had a really great party at someone's house and you took the exact same words, like, hey, really appreciate you, having us out. Had a great time, really enjoyed your home. It was beautiful. Thanks again, Robbie, right? Like if that was the letter you sent out, one was an email and the other one was like 3 days later, they got this thing in the mail, right? Like handwritten or whatever. Same words, same everything, but that additional bit of effort, right, like has a tremendous impact. So messaging matters, but also the delivery mechanism. And in this case for you, having a delivery mechanism in the first place is incredibly important, because otherwise, like you said, they're not going to let you go any further regardless, unless they have the proof of claim anyway, or the proof of payment anyway. I love it. I think it's really, really cool. And I just figured out where you originally posted this particular item. It was actually also... Today's the day of Facebook. On our Facebook page, you took a picture of the forever stamp, the envelope, all of that kind of stuff on your lap in your car, I assume, as you were dropping it off at the post office. You've got hashtag Note MBA tips, hashtag taxes, hashtag work smart, hashtag Yeti, because of the Yeti cup in the cup holder. Freaking love it. But these little things matter, right? Like these little things are tremendously important for your business, and it's the small systems that you're able to implement, and the stuff that we had discussed it whenever we were doing the build out, say for like Salesforce, and we're on the call with the guy and he says, we can build out, the system however you want, however your processes go. How well do you think you have the processes documented? And the original response, I think most people dictate, the default to is like, oh, I think we're pretty good. I think we got a pretty good process here. I think we got it pretty well documented. And then you go and actually start doing the work and you're like, shit, we don't document anything. Our process is all like nebulous. It's amorphous. It's in our head. We don't have any processes laid out. Like if somebody walked in, if I got laid up for some reason and someone had to come into my stead and do what I do, it would all fall apart. Like I've become a linchpin and a cog in a system that is completely unremovable, because if it gets removed, it's all broken, right? And these little pieces like this are incredibly important, even on, I say small scale, right? But whatever scale you're at when it comes to this business, they're incredibly important. And it is just super freaking cool to see these little things like the handwritten and then moving up to the form letter and all that kind of stuff that really start to elevate the game and make things a lot easier for you. So I think it's badass. I think it's great, man. Really cool tip. I love the hashtag Note MBA tips. I might have to start doing some like Facebook lives or some sort of like live videos or something on our Facebook page with like hashtag Note MBA tips. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it would be fantastic.
I'm making the note right now. Hashtag Note MBA tips. This is going on our Facebook page forthwith. Be on the lookout. You heard it here first. Any other systems talk you would like to cover, Mr. Woods, today?
There's two things to a degree because we've talked about it, and it is with the taxes because we actually need to set up a way to run a report. Just about maybe refreshing everybody's memory, anybody in the portfolio. When was the last time you did an audit of your property taxes and either force-placed insurance or your borrower's insurance policy got double-checked, just to make sure you're up to date on all of those items? Or are you paying a service to verify that? I mean, maybe you've got a tax verification company that's doing it for you. Just make sure, take a look into that. What was the property? Is the Atlanta one. There's a video that Chase had edited up from when I'd been in Atlanta. And that property was a complete disaster. It was the one we'd gotten for free. I think maybe we priced it at $500 inside of the actual pool purchase. But I just got a letter from Fulton County that it's getting ready to go to tax sale. And we know that. Like, we're okay with it. It's going to tax sale on purpose because we hadn't invested any money into it. But it's a reminder that you need to check up on some of the other properties. Part of that came from a different side of the systems conversation that we weren't, I guess we just didn't really get into, dealing with an asset that I've got up in Maryland that the attorney's office has just been, it's been a struggle, even with me following up with constant reminders biweekly every month. I barely had just known to follow up on this one. I went and got in Salesforce and I'd had a note to follow up. And had I not done it, the property was going to go to tax sale because 6 weeks prior, the paralegal said that they'd submit for the payment of the taxes and invoice me. And I hadn't gotten the invoice. And when I emailed to follow up, they said the invoice never got paid. So we went through all the system. And I'm like, you said you were submitting the tax payment and then you were going to invoice me. So it means you just invoiced me too. You never submitted it. We got it taken care of, but it was literally at like the night, what is it? You say the 11th hour? That's the same.
The 11th hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I want to figure out why that is. It's because there's only 12 hours on a clock, anyway, I'm curious why they call it the 11th hour. So I digress. But it was one of those things where had I not had it inside of the system to automatically check up and remind myself on that, there's a very good potential that because of continued, I want to say, ignorance on the side of this office and maybe just challenges we were having, so to speak, that this is something that would have fallen through the cracks on their end. And ultimately it falls on my shoulders. So it's no one else's fault but my own. And had I not followed up on them, but the system being what it was, utilizing it, there's some value in there, just kind of reinforcing when was the last time everybody kind of did an update on some of those items within inside of their systems that could cause a challenge for you.
Mm-hmm. And we are currently working through a kind of a systems play regarding insurance and what have you as well. One of the things that we were struggling with was on a couple of deals, how and when to handle the actual implementation of force-placed insurance, like how to make sure we're in that window of CFPB. When we had Mel Baptist from Ross Diversified on, he was talking about, the timeline. You got to send out the letter that says, hey, by the way, we're looking to put force-placed insurance on the house. Do you have homeowner insurance? And then the reminder letter, and then the final letter, which says, hey, like we've put this on the home. Please let us know otherwise. And then if you do all of that kind of stuff within a certain compliant way, obviously you got to maintain that when it comes to the compliancy piece. But also, if you can prove all of this out, and it turns out they did have the insurance, then you can obviously submit the claim back and get reimbursed for the premiums and all that kind of stuff. But we were struggling with that component of when does the mail out go? Like how do we manage that and all that kind of stuff? And what do those letters need to look like? One of the big things we wanted to do was on our forms for that particular document was to not have any of our information on it, like personal information, like my name or anything like that, because a similar type of letter had gone out to a deal in Nevada, which caused someone to get sued because her name was on the document. Like her personal name was on the document, and it was very little research necessary. So when the homeowner went to go file suit, they filed suit against the company as well as this person individually, right? So it was this, how do we have these forms go out? How do we have it be systematized, but also like kind of take ourselves out of the equation as much as possible to make it less easy for someone to say, find our name and that kind of stuff to if a lawsuit was incoming, right? So we talked with the guys over at Ross Diversified, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll put together the 3 form letters for you. Here's what you have to do. Put them in your system, and then they're kind of stock forms, and then you can just send them out. It doesn't have any of our being our company's information on them, like personal name and stuff like that. It just has the here's what's being placed on here from like almost the insurance company. Here's what's coming. But it's a very similar situation where we wanted to have in place all of the appropriate documentation, it going out right when it needed to go out, but also covering us for other reasons that had happened before, and kind of setting up a system to kind of have some of that cover whenever possible regarding things like lawsuits and what have you. So he gave us awesome advice on how to do that. He's like, day one, you get the deal, obviously put force place insurance in place, and then send out these form letters when they're supposed to go out. And then if it turns out they've got coverage, you get a reimbursement on the premium. So you're all good, but you are immediately covered in case they don't. And then we'll also keep you compliant, because you're not out of compliance by just putting the insurance on. It's the notifications that knock you out of compliance. So it's really kind of an interesting way of like making sure you're set up appropriately, and also covering and hedging, on 2 different fronts, but all insurance based, which is.
So these are generic letters that they created.
Yeah. I'll share them over. I'll share them with you. These are just generic, kind of the stock letters that need to go out to the borrowers. I think it's I think it's a 30-day, 60-day, or 30-day, 45-day, 90-day, or something like that. Some variant thereof. I'll have to get some clarification on it, but these have to go out. Borrower has to be notified and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we were technically in compliance before, but I'm not going to say on record, right, that we were out of compliance, but I think occasionally we were like maybe sending a letter too late is what it was, which doesn't matter at all, right? Like, so let's say it is that 30, 45, 90-day schedule, and we were sending like 40-day, 60-day, 120-day. Like, that's fine. Like, that's not terrible. It's sending it too early is the problem. And then obviously also, depending on the insurance company you decide to use for your force place, if it's too far out from when the premium has been paid and the proof that the homeowner actually had insurance, sometimes they won't reimburse the premiums, depending on where you're going. So that timeline is also very important on a potential reimbursement perspective, but also a compliance perspective.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. So pretty neat way to look at it for sure. And then obviously it was all precipitated by the all of the storms and hurricanes and tornadoes and fires, to all of the things that were happening. He's like, the second you own that deal, like, we need to be the first people you call. And by we, he meant more insurance than necessarily them, though they are pretty good over there, just to put it in place. And if it comes out that they had coverage and you're out, let's say the company doesn't give you your premium back or whatever, and you're out, whatever, 300, 500, 1,000, like whatever the amount is, that's way better than losing a deal entirely because you had nothing, right? The opportunity cost is substantially higher than like waiting a week and trying to figure out if they have insurance or not. And typically you can get that reimbursement. So tomorrow is a big day. We've got the launch of the Note Investing Academy. It's kind of the first bit of educational goodness that is coming down the pipe from us. And I'm very excited about it. We've got a ton of people. And Mr. Woods, I don't want you to like roll your eyes or give me any flack, but there's a lot more people interested in it than I had anticipated. I don't say that from like a small-minded perspective of where we started the show, like way back when. It's more just a factor of I'm grateful. It's more of a humility thing. Like, I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. So the launch happens tomorrow. We're very excited about it, and yeah, it's been really interesting to get the feedback, to hear from people who have gotten a little bit of an inside track on what we're going to be including in this course. We've got, like 60 plus videos and forums and vendor sections and all this kind of really goodness, so it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see people's reaction to it. I'm really excited about it.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how the launch goes. I'm sure it's going to be a good success there, Chico.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's currently keeping me up until 1 o'clock or so in the morning for about the past 3 weeks, making sure everything's working and the sites and the forms and the, just all of that stuff. But Thursday is going to be a good day. I think Thursday is going to be a phenomenal day after we have our first, initial kind of reaction to it and everything like that. Thursday, I'm hoping for be good. And taking a slight, page out of y'all's book, though it's in my own personal way, we're going to be doing a short little trip back down to San Antonio this weekend. We got a nice little 4-day weekend. We're going to take the kids and everybody back down to San Antonio, visit the family for 4 days, Friday to Monday. So that should be a lot of fun. And whenever I think about traveling, I always think of you guys, just because obviously y'all do it so much more frequently than I do. And even though it's something as simple as like a 4-hour, 5-hour like road trip south, I always think of you gentlemen and the traveling cohorts of the show.
I think that'll take care of it for the day.
Yep. If anybody from the audience wants to hop on my Facebook questions, feel free to.
I love the plug. I totally think you should. I think it's just an interesting thing to go take a look at. I think I'm excited that I was one of the first people to like notice the play that was made, and it's still great conversation and stuff, right? Like it doesn't degrade what is happening over there, right? I just thought it was really interesting, and I'm like, this is kind of what's he doing over here? This is kind of cool. So I definitely recommend you guys go check it out, join in the conversation over there. It's just another way to kind of stay connected with the show. Be sure to check out the show notes this week. I'm going to be linking up a bunch of the videos that we've been talking about, and obviously everything that we talk about is always talked about in the show notes over at notemba.com. And head over to iTunes if this is your first time here. Give us a rating, give us a review, and of course subscribe. And remember to tell 5 other people you know this week about the Note MBA podcast. Catch you guys in 2 weeks.
Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good week.